Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Aga Comics, Qua, Jeremy Vasquez, Kylie Denton, and Esther Flores. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it'll really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody.
Okita-san, 大勝利!
That's right, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Talk FGO Wanted, the show where we tell you if you want to roll 5 stars. And in case you can't tell from that intro, which is much shorter than it usually is, we're going to be talking about Okita Souji today. That's right. With the Guda Guda rerun coming back, Okita's getting a banner, and you can try and roll her. And you should. But we'll cover why later. So, first off, in case this is your first time watching Wanted, because it might be, you never know, the videos aren't exactly on a regular schedule. But, basically, we break this down into 4 segments, where we talk about various things that might affect your willingness to spend your precious Saint Quartz. So first, we'll talk about the real-life history or folklore of a character. We'll talk about their capital L lore and fate, you know, where they originate from, if they've been involved in any other stuff, and so on and so forth. Then we'll talk about their mechanics, you know, what they actually do in the game, in case, you know, you need somebody who does something specific. And we'll also talk about their rarity. Not their star rarity, because we always talk about 5 stars, but their actual rarity of how common they are on banners. Because, you know, that can be a big deal. For example, we talked about Arthur last time, and he's only on, like, 2. So, yeah. Anyway, today we're talking about Okita Souji, who's a fairly popular character, I think. She's pretty good. Played by the lovely Aliyuki. And pretty well known, I think, in terms of Fate stuff, because, well, she's been involved in some stuff before FGO. But don't worry, we'll talk about all of that. So, let's go ahead and jump into the real life, because for once, I actually have stuff for this. We're not just skimming over. So, the thing to know about when talking about the real-life Okita Souji is that he, and yes, we'll talk about Okita being a gender flip later, but yes, the historical Okita Souji was a male, and he was captain of the first unit of the Shinsengumi, and this was at a period in history when Japan was ruled by a shogunate, a military government. The Shinsengumi were a band of ronin and swordsmen recruited from schools to form basically a special police or protectorate force that were sent to Kyoto to represent the shogunate and protect the shogunate representatives. And then after the shogunate kind of broke down and the government was rebuilt, they were, you know, basically forced into exile and civil war. They only lasted a few years. And unfortunately, Okita-san lasted a little bit less than that, because the other famous thing about Okita is that he died very young, depending on which dating system is correct, somewhere in his mid-20s. And it is commonly assumed that Okita had tuberculosis. I'm sorry, I'm reading an article. That was bad of me. No, he assisted a friend with seppuku, though. He was the second, so that's kind of a big deal. But no, tuberculosis, or some other similar disease, it's not entirely clear. The fame is that Okita fainted during an incident at Ikedaya Inn, which was a big, famous thing. They stopped a big plot. But tuberculosis kind of has a wandering amount of when it could kill. You can either die very rapidly of it or very slowly. But once it progressed to the point where you would be collapsing, it's rare that people would not die before a year, so Okita lived 4 years after that, so the common historical guess is that it was actually like heat stroke at the time, and tuberculosis may have been developed later. But we'll come back to that when we talk more about Okita as a Fate character. The other infamous thing about Okita Souji is that in addition to being captain of the first unit, Okita-san was also considered one of the best swordsmen of the Shinsengumi, and was their Kenjutsu instructor. He was training in the Tenin Rishin-Ryu school since about age 9, and was a prodigy. Was said to have mastered all techniques and achieved a license of total transmission, which I assume means that that's the official certification. You have learned all techniques at about age 18. So, yeah, Okita was a prodigy. Was famous for a technique known as Mumyoken, or Sandazuki, which translates to Okita's Noble Phantasm, a attack technique where you could strike either shoulder or the neck from a single position, According to folklore, this could actually strike all 3 points simultaneously, but obviously that's not how real life works. But it was like a position where you could make any of those attacks. And yeah, so that's kind of the real life incident. Okita-san died young because of the tuberculosis and was forced to basically retire to a hospital. Was left in Edo when the Shinsengumi retreated, and was not able to be with them in their final moments, which will come back. Okita was born, actually, of the samurai class, and, that's part of why he was sent to school. There's a lot of, in fiction, connection to the major figure of the Shinsengumi Hijikata, but there's not necessarily any strong historical connection that they were actually close. And another detail is that Okita Souji is usually described as quite an attractive man. We don't know for sure, because there is a photo that is famously identified as Okita Souji, but based on historicity, there's not any actual connection that this is them. It's a photo of a different person. So, as far as we know, there's no photographic evidence of Okita. All right, so that's the actual history. A little short, a little sad, very violent, but popular to the Japanese. And I recommend actually, studying up on this. The Shinsengumi and the Bakumutsu period, the shogunate is a very big deal in Japanese culture, so you can find lots of like TV dramas and anime and stuff about it if you're interested. Okay. So let's talk about Okita in Fate. So yes, obviously, Okita is a gender flip, but that's because Okita Souji as a Fate character originates from KOHA-Ace and Fate KOHA-Ace kind of parody mangas and comics, where Okita is first introduced as Sakura Saber. So obviously, she's kind of a parody character in a parody comic. Drawn by Takeuchi, she's deliberately drawn to hearken to Artoria, Saber's design. That's why she's called Sakura Saber. Has the ahoge and all that stuff. Is a gender flip of a male historical character kind of thing, right? So, she was intended as kind of this parody standpoint, right? And so you can kind of see that characterization. There's lots of jokes about how she's not a real saber because she doesn't shoot beams. The tuberculosis becomes her weak constitution skill, which becomes a gag. The moment she tries to do something cool or impressive, she starts, coughing or vomiting up blood, etc. She becomes a recurring character. Apparently in the comics, Mordutu appears, jokes, and calls her mother because she looks like Artoria, but obviously more feminine. And then she also appears in the actual Fate KOHA-Ace setting in the Imperial Capital Holy Grail Strange Story, which is kind of where the third Guda Guda event is based on. Got a lot of that. So she's been pretty used by Fate since then. Has kind of a thing going on with a competition with Demon Archer, aka Nobu, where, funnily enough, in this original story of like Fate KOHA-Ace, Okita was considered stronger than Nobu because Okita is recent, she doesn't have a lot of mystery, and she can close distance rapidly with her reduced Earth skill, which is transliterated but not transliterated as Shukuchi. But obviously in FGO, that's flipped. And so, of course, Okita is a major character in all of the various Guda Guda events, of which there are several. And later she will get an alter variant who's based on the parody character of Devil Saber, or Majin Saber. So, let's go ahead and move on to mechanics. We've taken a solid 10 minutes to talk about history and kind of Fate stuff. If you want to know more about Okita, read the Guda Guda Order comics, which are in the KOHA-Ace style, on the website, and also check out the upcoming Guda Guda Honoji event. So, mechanically, Okita is a single-target saber who has a bit of a quick focus. So, attack-wise, she's pretty good. Currently, she's number 3 on our list, out of Arthur, Altera, and then Okita, and she's just only a few hundred points behind them. In terms of HP, she has a little bit on those guys, on some of them, but she's a little low, really. It's her weak constitution. She's It's funny. There are a couple of 4 stars who are higher than her. So that is kind of a mismatch, right? Her attack is not the super highest for having the super lowest HP, but she'll do okay because let's look at those stats. So relatively normal star absorption for a Saber, but that doesn't matter because she's got a skill for that. We'll talk about that later, but it's obviously not a big deal. Even for a 2-hit arts card, her NP charge on attack is very good. You know, it's because she only has 1 arts card, which is 2 hits. But you'll notice she has a non-standard Saber setup. She's quick, arts, buster. Those 2 quick cards have 5 hits, and you do generate NP off a quick card. So if you did like an AQQ or something, you'll still be getting a decent amount of NP gain back. Not as much as like an arts focus, but definitely because the base stat is so high, she will still generate NP okay. And so you can see kind of her hit counts, you know, pretty minimal. Her NP is fairly straightforward. It is a single target quick, so it has a really high damage multiplier. The actual number of hits are pretty low, but you'll be enhancing that with other stuff, and she can quick chain with it. You also greatly decrease the enemy's defense, that target enemy, for 3 turns. That starts at a minimum 30%, okay? So that's a pretty good defense down. If you're building a chain, you know, like if you're going all in on a whole hog Okita turn, you can do some serious harm that way. And basically, this establishes what Okita's job is. She's a Saber who kills bosses. You need a single target Saber, you know, maybe you haven't been lucky with 4 stars, you know, you don't have a Rama or a Lancelot. Maybe you want a little bit more firepower than a Caesar, because Caesar's alright, but he's, even after updates and stuff, you know, he could hit harder, because he doesn't necessarily have anything to enhance his quick focus or a lot of his damage. He's got a moderate charisma level, and he can increase a target ally's crit strength and star drop rate. So Caesar makes a good support for Okita, but he doesn't quite have like the damage additive potential or the combo potential that that she does. So like I said, Caesar actually works good with Okita. He complements her, but yeah, in terms of like, especially early on, if you wanted a single target Saber, you had to wait a while. And even now, if you have not like been blessed by a Rama or a Lancelot, you know, maybe you didn't get Musashi. Hi. Or you find, you know, a Brave Liz kind of lacking, or you haven't managed to NP5 your Bedivere, you know, like, she is a solid contender who can do pretty good damage compared to even those guys, because she has the right kit for it. And she'll be quick focused. Not like as hyper focused on quick as some later characters are, but if you're trying to build the fabled quick team, she is a very solid member for damage. So let's run down those skills. So first she has Shikuchi B, aka Reduced Earth. She can Flash Step. This is basically Green Mana Burst. It's got a minimum 5-turn cooldown. It's 30 to 50% quick up. That's a pretty good move, you know. It's only 1 turn, but you can make that quick turn count. You will generate oodles of stars, which rolls into her second ability, which is Weak Constitution A. Yeah, they turned a negative skill into a positive thing. This also has a 5-turn cooldown, and it seriously increases your critical star gather rate. We're talking 1,000%. So, you know, if I remembered how to do the conversion with percentiles on my calculator off the top of my head, I would, you know, figure it out. But I think that's 100. So 100 times is basically, plus 100 times would basically be doubled. So this would be plus like 10 of those. So it takes her star absorption really, really high. That'll beat out Riders and basically anybody else using a buff, for sure. And possibly even resist debuffs in that matter. So she can totally suck up all those stars. And then lastly, she's got Mind's Eye Fake, so this kind of assuages some of her low HP problems. You get a 1 turn of evade, and you increase your critical strength for 3 turns, so you don't necessarily need to worry about it comboing with your evade, right? This is a problem that some later skills have, like, for instance, Raiko's Mana Burst Lightning has 1 turn of evade on it, and is also still 1 turn of Buster Up, so you kind of have this problem where you're like, well, golly gee willikers, I really want a damage steroid, but if this doesn't work, that means I've blown my evade, right? And this is a rank, so it's 20 to 40% critical up. So, for 3 turns, that's pretty good. You can use it to dodge NPs, and it sets you up for future turns. Okita's great either as a single turn blowout, like, for instance, you could Shikuchi and then NP QUICC if you had somebody else generate stars, right? And just blow it on a whole turn. Or you could use a setup turn, and then the next turn you pop Weak Constitution. If you've already got Mind's Eye or not popped, you can drop that. And then you can try and leverage her Buster cards and just crit big. You can also use her without activating her Weak Constitution, or because it's only one turn when it's down. You can also still use her as a star generator with those 5-hit quick cards. So, while mostly damage focused, she has a little bit of synergy with your team. The main problems you're going to want to watch of her is her fragility. Her magic resistance is really low, so she has very little debuff resist, as usual for Sabers. She also has only very little riding, which increases her passive quicks. In this time period, your quick support is mostly like, Adelante, who has a team quick buff and some other stuff. In future, you'll get better options, like Skahak Skadi. But for now, she is one of the models of a self-sufficient quick servant, because other than the fact that she gets beat up a little, while Merlin is Buster focused, you can use his recovery abilities. She also pairs well with Hans because he's a healer and a star generator. And if you just generate enough stars, you can kind of have regular Skahak come with you because she has a targetable quick buff. For instance, if you were facing a mixed Knights node, an Okita Skahak Adelante team is not budget, but you've got enough quick nonsense going on in there, you can probably make it work, right? In general, what you're going to want to focus on is quick. Maybe you want to focus with some NP gain or star generation, maybe. But mostly I'm thinking quicker NP stuff. In my mind, because she doesn't have any kind of, defense mitigation potential. Though I didn't point this out, but obviously you can read. Mumio Sandazuki is defense ignoring, so that works great against tanky enemies. But, Decapitating Bunny is probably a good CE for her if you have problems with enemies who evade or invincible a lot, which, hey, is not unheard of with Lancers. Those fuckers. And other than that, her kit is very basic, but it's very solid, She has the ability to magnet stars to her, which is a problem Sabers can sometimes have. She has green mana burst, and she's got an evade, so she's got a little bit of damage mitigation, which also, like I said, boosts her crits. And like we said, pair her with star generators and healers to keep her going. You can try and pair her with some other Knights class characters who have quick boosts. Otherwise, just, I don't know, like I said, throw Caesar in there, because he'll do attack up and NP up, and he can also do critical strength up. If you do his rank up, that also increases their start drop rate. Worst comes to worst, hey, you're trying to do quick stuff, throw Jack in there. Jack's great. So all in all, like I said, Okita is not impressive technically. She doesn't really do anything unique, but her kit and her setup is very, very solid, fairly self-sufficient, other than the fact that, like I said, her HP's a little low. And in general, she's fairly well balanced to actually do work if you want to do a single target Saber. And, hit hard in a certain manner. And in future, Quick becomes an archetype in its own right, so it's very good to have a Quick Saber who is in that zone, because, let me actually double check. Yeah, that's right. There are very few quick-focused Sabers. After Caesar and Okita, you're waiting for Summer Fran, and then you're waiting a long time for Saber the Arma. Quick is not a common archetype for Sabers. There's way more arts and Buster Sabers than there are Quick. And here's a quick insert at a later date, because I got really excited talking about mechanics, and I forgot to mention her rarity and stuff coming up. So, whoops, me. But just really quick, we're going to recap. There's the Guda Guda Honoji rerun that's coming up. You've already missed the first Guda Guda Honoji event, where there was a raid up. Now, there's an event that we don't know how they're going to translate it, because it's the Kyomef 2017 commemoration campaign, where Okita and Hijikata were on raid up. I'm sure we will have something like it in the North American version, but I don't think it will be called that. But it will be a banner with her and Hijikata, and then that's later this year. And then next year, there's going to be the Okita Summoning Campaign banner, but that is immediately before Guda Guda Mystery of the Imperial Capital Holy Grail, the holy shit, we can't use that title ever again because it's so long, which is where Okita Altar is. So watch out for those if you're looking to summon her. Alright, let's cut back to the outro I already shot. So yeah, that's basically the show. I hope you enjoyed that down. I actually really like Okita. She has eluded me so far, but we'll see if I can scrape together a 10 roll or two. on the campaign, and I have managed to put this video out in a timely manner. Hey. So, let's go ahead and say, if you like this video, give it a like. If you have any comments about Okita, leave them in the comment section down below. And you can also get in touch with us on our Discord. That link is in the description. And consider subscribing if you're new here and haven't already, so you can always keep track of our videos. We do Wanted pretty regularly whenever there's a new 5-star, and sometimes when there's an old 5-star. I'm sorry, Amakusa, someday you'll have a rate up at a time period that's not really shitty for me, and I'll actually do a video on you. And it'll probably be super interesting. But for now, I joked about this on Let's Talk FGO. You got cucked out of it once again because your rerun banner was right up next to Arthur, and I was in a huge rush to do that, and now I'm in a huge rush to do Okita. But we're here. Also, consider hitting that bell for notifications so you always know when we post a new video. You know, if you're interested in Wanted, that's a thing that's not necessarily regularly posted, like I said at the front. And also, like it says at the front, consider joining us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early. You can get access to audio downloads of our weekly podcast, Let's Talk FGO, in a more convenient form for you for as little as $1 a month. And it really helps us out and stuff. So yeah, I'll leave you with that. I'm not sure when the next Wanted is. I'd have to double check the schedule about when. I know that there is the Guda Guda sequel, which is coming out not too soon, or not too distantly. I don't know if that's right after the rerun, so look forward to me talking about Hijikata. We'll talk more about some Shinsengumi stuff. And otherwise, stay tuned. Look out for this week's Let's Talk FGO, or check out last week's Let's Talk FGO, where we mentioned the rerun. You can watch old episodes of Let's Talk FGO, where we talk about the Guda Guda event, the original time, where I'm sure Okita and her thighs appear in one of the thumbnails. I don't know. Whatever. And yeah, I'll see you guys whenever the next video is. Thanks for your time as always. Bye, everybody.